not have any actions to report in closed session, and we are going to call a meeting to order now for open session. All right, attendance roll call. Maxfield is not here today. I'm here. Trustee Lopez here. Trustee Julia
Here.
Trustee Hunt
Here.
Great. All right, let's have everybody stand and pledge. Ready? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes on the agenda?
No changes.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, reading the district mission statement. We are a collaborative, culturally rich educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. Item 10.0, public comments. Public business come to the floor on non-agendized items. This portion of the agenda allows the individual opportunity to address the board on any given item during board business that's not on the agenda. Without taking actions or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about the topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes.
Hello, Michelle here. I just want to say thank you to those who came out to our music performances at the high school and the elementary school. And also that I did send an email out to the board members, so I hope you've received it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Nobody else? Great. All right. Item 11.0 is a public hearing. As an elected governing body of Calistoga Unified School District, the Board of Trustees conducts public hearings for the purpose of maintaining open communication with parents, students, and residents of Calistoga Community and School District. Through the public hearing process, trustees seek ideas, viewpoints regarding the efficiency and quality of district-sponsored programs or any other of the operation of district and its schools. The trustee believes that open communication is the key element in the ongoing process of district, school, and program improvement. So item 11.1 is public hearing on our 2016-17 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP. So I am going to go ahead and open the public meeting at 6:05 p.m. and allow anybody that has any comments to bring it to us at this time.
Dr. Brown, would you like to come to the podium and provide us just a brief summary and overview of the process?
I believe several months ago, we presented a draft of the 2016-17 Local Control Accountability Plan. It had been updated from the previous year to reflect our current state on all 10 of the goals that are present in the plan. And also a description of the stakeholder feedback processes that we went through in terms of public meetings, staff feedback, and parents, and at different ELAC meetings, and I can't remember the specific ones, I don't have them in front of me, but there were numerous meetings in which the information was presented, and we received some feedback on the goals. The general consensus was that they were correct for the students and for the staff to proceed and to continue on those. There's opportunities along the way for us to make adjustments if we think that something is not working the way we want it to. So this is an ongoing process. This is a living document, and we can continue updating it from year to year. In fact, we're required to update it from year to year. But we want to continue having that discussion and provide all of the stakeholders within the district an opportunity to provide feedback on that.
I would also like to add that we work very closely with the County Office of Education. They provided us guidance, basically, and what needed to be done, what the different components were, as well as what the requirements and mandates from the state.
Right, and the state will be coming out with a rubric, is currently coming out with a rubric for that LCAP, and so there will be some modifications that we make to address the concerns at the state level more effectively as soon as we understand what those are. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, Brian Fenton. I have, my basic concern is having more community involvement in this process. I mean, that is one of the goals and objectives that describe the process used to consult with parents, pupils, school personnel, local bargaining units, et cetera, et cetera. Questions how stakeholders been included in the process in a timely manner. Is there meaningful dialogue and feedback? Some districts are, what they're doing, and because this document is not something I expect, anybody here to just pick up and read and understand it. It was a template created by the state, and you filled in the blanks. But some school districts have taken it upon themselves to have training sessions for parents who wish, in these groups that wish to provide feedback. You're required to have a district parent advisory committee that's involved. You're required to have a district English learners advisory committee to be involved in the process. I'm also looking at section 1, stakeholder engagement. And it states in here, note the LEA's goals, actions, services, and expenditures related to the state priority of parental involvement are described separately in section 2. And yet, when I'm reading this, this right here, it really doesn't describe to me very well what's going on here. You have an involvement process, impact on LCAP, and it's not obvious what this all means. I just pulled out an example here. I was looking at it. It says, under this, all this language in here, goal line 9, absentee rates will decrease by 2% and dropout rates will decrease by overall by 2%. And then some kind of an explanation is increased parent awareness, ELAC, coffee and conversations, CES conferences, student progress report comments, ongoing both sides, mental health report. This is kind of gobbledygook because I don't get because you're supposed to say on the one thing what involvement process was, and then the other column is supposed to be what the outcome of that process was. What was the feedback? What was the written feedback, and what was the response to that feedback? And I'd like to see more of this in the future because this is not an easy thing. And I know you're probably compliant with all this stuff and you have to figure out how to put it in there, but it would be good to have more, I think, parental engagement. I mean, I'd like to be involved, but I'm sure some other people, if only to understand it better and understand that it's all being followed correctly. I'd just like to see something in the future, move forward with that, more involvement, community support for this. Also, to summarize, in fact, how is this actually going to impact the budget? Are there line items that it changes? Does it change personnel? These are, kind of simple questions, but with all of this stuff, it's hard to figure out. So I think really a summary that shows the changes that this makes, how we comply, and how people can help to comply if there's a non-compliance issue. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
If I might say something, I was recently at the California School Board Association delegates meeting in Sacramento back in May, and believe me, this is an issue that most of the districts in the state are facing, which is the template for the LCAP comes from the state directly, and it's a document that is not really easy to understand for people who are working on it. Imagine it's even more difficult for the public. So they did this session where they were asking for input, and we had the opportunity to say, make it simpler, make it easier to understand without, putting all those codes and all, and the repetition. I mean, they are working on it. They are trying to make it, give feedback to the state so that they will make a document that is more, accessible for everybody.
I would also like to add that the school size have met with the different parent representative bodies, school site council, and the ELAC parents. So we have definitely, obviously, made an attempt to reach out to as many stakeholders as possible. Now, we are keeping a record of that, Brian, but you're right, it's not included on the LCAP. I think it would be hundreds of pages if we do. But we do, we can give you the dates of when that happened, when my principals are saying that they discuss with the parents, with those parents groups, the LCAP and review them. And Trustee Lopez is correct. At this point, the state doesn't know yet exactly what they want. They're still trying to figure it out. And when they do, we will continue to do our best to just comply with it.
Dr. Monaghan, there is in the stakeholders section, there is a list with dates of different parent-attended events that we presented a PowerPoint. We didn't present the document itself because it is so overwhelming. We're trying to make it more transparent by presenting it as PowerPoint slides. But we did our best to get that information. We did get some feedback and recognize that we want this document is about creating transparency into our goals and getting that feedback. So thank you for that feedback so that we can do a better job on it.
So if people don't understand it, they cannot give you meaningful feedback. And that seems to be where the stopping point is between this and people participating. And we're just feeling that they're participating better, that they have their comments down and the feedback. Because I've reviewed some of the other LCAPs in other districts. And that's what they have in these columns, is they had a meeting and they had the recommendations. And then at the very end, how they complied or attempted to comply with those recommendations. It was a shorter list than yours is. So
Also, however, the LCAP has to be approved since we're part of Napa County. It has to be approved by the County Office of Education. So we're following their lead. We're working very closely with them. We're part of Napa County, and we have to make sure that they are the ones who will approve the LCAP.
Any comments further from the board? Anybody else? Okay, then at this point, I am going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:14. Now we have one more public hearing, which is on the 2016-17 budget. One thing I just want to say is that Jenny, the way that you were presenting all the assumptions is so much more comprehensive that it was really actually very interesting to read.
Okay. 16-17 budget. Assuming I can get this to work. Okay. So first, I'm going to just give you a brief update of what's coming down from the state. Even though we're a community-funded district, we are impacted by changes that happen at the state level. Also, I'm going to go over, of course, our budget, the long-term perspective that we need to have, and then a summary. Okay, so we've been saying at the state that 2016-17 is the last good year. We've seen a lot, obviously an increase in the assessed valuations, and we recognize that in our property tax revenues that have been increasing over the last couple of years. So the upcoming years are probably going to see quite a slowdown in terms of tax revenue growth and assessed valuation increases. In terms of ongoing commitments, since we see this coming and it's really important as a community-funded district to prepare for unexpected events. It's exceptionally important that we not only maintain our reserves at a good level, but that we also don't commit ourselves to additional ongoing expenses that could impact us in the future, assuming that we do have to rely on our reserves at some point to continue supporting through the hard times. And for community-funded districts, cash flow, we relied on the cash flow of property taxes, and as you know, paying property taxes, those do not come in on a regular basis. So we have to make it pretty much through to November, operating using our reserves until we get that first influx. And even when we get it in November, it's not a significant amount. So we probably get about $460,000 of revenue between July and November. So it's really important, considering that payroll on a monthly basis exceeds $700,000, that we keep those reserves so that we can maintain that cash flow. Statutory COLA, this doesn't impact us too much, but it does impact our special education funding as well as our child nutrition program. And initially it was budgeted that we'd have a 0.47% COLA, and it was actually dropped to 0. And it's anticipated that in the next few years the COLA is going to continue to be very low. Now for our budget. So for revenues, we're assuming a 4.37 increase in property taxes. This is a net of Sonoma and Napa County based on the recommendations from both assessors' offices. We will be receiving one-time funding in the amount of about $190,000. It's important to note that this also is really the state paying us for costs we incurred a long time ago that they should have paid us for. So this is counting for backlogged mandate claims. So it's not really new revenue, it's they're finally paying us. And then of course our state portion, which is very minimal, it's about $580,000. And I think it's always important to remember that when the basic aid fair share reduction was implemented, that really, that still continues even through the LCFF, and so we would actually be getting over $1 million from the state if that wasn't still the case. And then here's just a pie chart of our different funding sources. As you can see, property taxes, the biggest chunk. Expenditures. So, just as a refresher, our step-in column, for instance, our salary schedules, you have a teacher somewhere on the salary schedule, and each year they would go up a step. If they get additional credits, then they can also go up a column. So it's a little hard to project that, but you assume about 2.5% to 3.5% because it really depends on the person and where they are on the schedule. Then we also have the negotiated salary increase for our bargaining unit, as well as accounting for the health and welfare cap increase for our certificated teachers. And if you think about it, the step-in column increase in combination with salary increase, that means a person could really get 8% in 1 year increase, which is quite a bit. And then lastly, our insurance premium increase. And here's again, a pie graph of just how our expenditures are separated. So STRS, I think this is really important, and we're going to keep hearing about it, and then we've heard about it numerous times, and you're going to probably get tired of hearing about it, but California State Teachers Retirement System, unfortunately, their financial troubles have been put on the burden of local employers. So right now, we're at 10.73%. Next year, we're going to be at 12.58%. So this is a 1.85% increase just in the fiscal year. And as you know, our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. So if you consider that in 13-14 we were at 8.25%, we're talking about a 52% increase that we're incurring in paying for STRS contributions on the employer side. And this is decided at the legislative level. This isn't something that we have any control over. And this is what we are projecting to see over the next few years. By 2020, we're going to have 19% on salaries, what we're paying towards STRS. And they've also made sure to point out that this increase should stop in 2046. So who knows what the other years will hold, right? So what I did here, I just want to give an idea. This is basically taking our current STRS members' base salaries and showing what the cost over the years would be based on the new rates. I didn't account for attrition, didn't account for any changes, just to give an idea. Because really, if you look at it that way, from that perspective, this is showing us what the bare minimum would probably be. That's assuming no increases in salary, nothing. So next couple years, that's over $500,000 that districts or us specifically have to figure out how to pay for. Also, PERS, so California Public Employees Retirement System, they're also increasing our contribution rates. It's a little different because PERS is decided by the CalPERS board, but this year actually came in a little bit higher than was initially anticipated. So we went from 11.847% to 13.888%. And if you look, again, we're projected to be at close to 20% in a couple years of what we're paying to PERS as employer contribution. And then here, same idea, just took the base salaries of what we have now, and we're looking at what that impact would be over time. Overall, it's a 7.94% increase, but between the two, we're talking in a couple years, well over $500,000, probably over $700,000. That's quite a bit. So I want to touch on special ed a little bit, because when we talk about our reserves and maintaining them and unexpected expenditures, sometimes it's hard to realize what those might be, and this is a big piece of it. There are a lot of mandates provided and not the funding to support it. And so as you can see, we contribute 62%, and the state and federal government give us about $690,000 worth to provide these services. So here's an example. Anytime that we can't provide a service, we have to make sure that that student gets those services that they're entitled to. And sometimes this requires us to send students to out-of-district placements. And if you look at annually, these probably the minimum services provided, if we're going out of district, range from $35,000 to $50,000 annually per student. And if you look at preschool, the county office provides these services and we pay for our students. That is it fluctuates drastically because we get one intensive student, that's an additional $50,000. And we might find that out mid-year. It's not unusual to find that out. And then last, our residential placements range about $115,000 to $145,000 annually per student. And these are just base costs. This does not include transportation or behavioral, any additional. So I think it's important to always keep this in mind when it comes to managing our reserves and our budget and not committing to any ongoing expenses. So I just want to mention a couple things you might hear about the state level. The state facilities bond is supposed to be on the ballot in November. It is not supported by the governor at this point. He feels it perpetuates the deficiencies in the existing program that we have. As you know, the state has not provided funding for facilities for a very long time, which is why we have had to incur that locally. And even if this passes on the ballot, it doesn't mean that the governor will issue the bonds. So we're probably not going to see anything from that. The early education block grant, this won't affect us this year. This is a pilot year, but it is essentially going to consolidate early education. And that means it's also going to put more responsibility on the districts locally. And we'll see these changes in 17, 18, but it is definitely going to add some more work and oversight in terms of managing these changes. And our EPA Prop 30 funds. So this is due to expire at the end of 2018-19. This was the tax extension. For us, this would be an annual loss of $165,000. There is rumor that maybe there will be an extension, but of course we can never rely on what might happen in the future, right? So again, our reserves, and I've said it over and over, but right now, 16, 17, excuse me, we're projecting 8.89% reserve. The Government Finance Officers Association and the state recommend about a 17% reserve, because you figure that doesn't cover that much, maybe 2 months of operating expenditures. So we really need to make sure that we make the effort to build our reserves back up, as well as, I just want to show you over the next few years what we're projecting, but we want to build these reserves back up for these unanticipated costs that we might incur. And again, that means we don't want to commit to any ongoing costs that would be dipping into our reserves. That's not a good way to handle ongoing costs. I just want to give you an example of some of the unexpected costs that we see that are surprisingly expensive. I thought the tree upkeep was really surprising. We have all these great trees, but they're surprisingly costly to keep up, and that's for safety reasons typically. You have to take a tree down, you have to trim it, make sure our campuses are safe. Of course, PG&E, about $200,000. Repair and maintenance of our HVAC systems, $41,000 last year, and water and sewer. And these are just a couple examples, but I think it's always interesting to see how costly these things are and how much they actually add up. And also, as you know, our summer projects this year, this was unexpected project that we had no choice but to do, and it's going to cost $600,000+. And this is why it's so important to maintain those reserves, because it's times like these that we need to tap into that. And on top of that, of course, in the near future, we're going to have to deal with additional repairs and maintenance at the elementary school, and that's going to be costly as well. So we have to keep that in mind, that we're very limited at this point into what we have available. So, if I can conclude, if there's a few things that I could have you leave here remembering, it would be one, we have to remember the increases in pension costs and how we're going to handle this. We want to keep that in the back of our mind as time goes on. Also, our revenue is probably going to slow down, so it shouldn't be surprising to see not such an increase in our property taxes. And also our unpredictable costs. We have to always keep that in mind going forward. So, I'd say we absolutely have to remain prudent. We don't want to commit to additional ongoing costs at this point. I thought this was a great point. School Services of California said that insolvencies are usually due to decisions made during prosperous times, right? So we have to keep that in mind. And think long-term. That's part of the whole long-term thinking, right, is that the excesses of today will become the pets of tomorrow, and of course we don't want to find ourselves there. So we just want to keep in mind we've been really good at maintaining the budget that we have and getting this far and surviving the economic recession, and the only way you can do that, right, is with reserves. So, any questions?
I do have a question. So going back to the LCAP, we are required to provide all these services, all these programs, do the extra work of 138 pages that we need.
Yes.
So how much money does the state give us?
For the
Give
LCAP?
this district for it?
No money. No money. And that's a good point, that when this block grant implementation happens, it's anticipated there's going to be similar requirements. We're not going to get any money for that piece.
I would also like to remind the board that really Calistoga Joint Unified School District, it's only in the past 3 years that we have actually received an increases in revenue from the prior year. Since the economic recession started back in 2008, for about 3 years, we had basically almost 1 year, I know, 2009, 2010, we had pretty much zero increase of revenue from the prior year because property values basically declined very drastically. So it's only in the past 3 years, and we're not to the point that the district used to be prior to 2008. So that is really an important thing to remember.
Yes, and on that, we also don't get supplemental taxes, and sometimes people don't realize that it's a big community-funded district. You know, supplemental taxes, a house is reassessed or built, we don't get those at any point. So
LCFF school districts receive funding based on student enrollment. So if the enrollment in a school district increases, then they receive additional funding. We don't. And it is great, but our enrollment actually has gone up from the past 2 years. We're at 860 something.
yeah, in fact, we are, at this time, the only district in the county that is showing increases in enrollment at this point.
I have a question for you. What input?
Hang on. Let me just open up the public hearing first. Can you do that?
I'm sorry.
Perfect. No, that's okay. We're gonna do it by the process. All right, so at this point, we are at, thank you so much. 6:33, gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing on the budget, and Mark, go for it.
I have a question. What input does the stakeholders have, involvement does the stakeholders have in the putting together the LCAP? What input have?
You know, that item was the prior item on the agenda, and public comments are over, so we're on the budget now.
I apologize. I was curious. Last board meeting was 6:30, and I
So could, you know, we'll be happy to meet with you, Mark,
okay.
to discuss that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody on the budget presentation?
On Friday, I had a chance to kind of just look over the budget, and I'm just kind of curious, how come it's not broken down further by school or departments at the school, like athletics, which cafeteria, you know, high school versus elementary school, the music department, PE.
So the format that we use is actually a state format. We don't have a choice. It is exported out of our system into the state, and that's what's required.
Okay, so you're not able to just take it further yourself and break it down?
Yes, but that's not part of what we provide. It would be a separate request.
Okay.
Michelle, so what happens is we all use a SIM or a finance system, and that is because we need to feed all the information into a set thing that everybody has the same exact budget format. But if you wanted to go in and talk to Jenna and have her break it down for you, then absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else on the budget questions? No, Mark, no more? Okay. All right, then at this point, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget at 6:30. And then we will move on to reports and recognition, item 12.1, which is Rob Weiss and Jenny.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. We're here to talk to you about mental health services that our organizations are providing to the district. I want to thank the district for your partnership with us over many years. We believe that the services provided to students and their families are essential for ultimate academic achievement for students. I'm going to just talk in generalities about what the Up Valley Family Center does. Rob will talk about the counseling services more specifically. The Up Valley Family Centers, as you know, we have one of our offices on the Calistoga Elementary School campus, And of course, we are working with a lot of the families that the district serves on a day-to-day basis. In terms of the counseling services, every other week we have something called Core Team, where we're partnering closely with the administrators at both the elementary school and at the junior senior high school. And at those meetings, we are looking at referrals of students for mental health services and thinking about how best to support them and what level of intervention they may need. Mentis therapists are included in, obviously, in those conversations as well. We do this on an every other week basis, and of course, if something comes up in the meantime, in between that, we address those issues right away. We have had increasing needs for students to have therapeutic services so that based on basically the referrals that have come to us through teachers, and also sometimes parents will refer their students. The role that the Family Center plays in that is we'll make contact with the family. Our student advocate will reach out to the family to let them know if they don't, that their student has been referred for services, talk to them about what that means, get their approval for it. We'll also take that time to check in with the parent to see if there are any services they may need at home. In addition to the Core Team services, our student advocate also runs a program called Second Step at the elementary school, and this is for students that need support with social skills. Maybe they're not getting along with some of their peers, and our student advocate will meet with them and support them and give them skills so that they can better get along with one another on the playground or wherever that they may need. And then finally, before I turn it over to Rob, I wanted to let you know about a new program that the Family Center will be offering called the Positive Parenting Program, Triple P. And this is an evidence-based education and support system for parents, and we have now 5 staff certified to provide this training. It's really focused on a strength-based, non-judgmental way to interact with parents about behavioral challenges that their children may be having. And we think that some of the students that are referred for counseling services, there are behavioral issues that are happening at home that the parents are struggling with as well. And so we now will be able to, we've begun offering both one-on-one services as well as group services for parents in both English and Spanish. They can call our office at any time and we can get them signed up either for the individual or the groups. I believe you have handouts about the groups that are coming up in Calistoga, one on June 7th on dealing with disobedience, and one on June 21st around fighting and aggression. And the Triple P program is, we're part of a countywide effort to really have a system-wide way of dealing with supporting parents at whatever level they may need. Triple P has interventions at a very basic level where we can provide somebody with a one-time information sheet and strategies for what they could do at home, as well as more intensive services for families that are dealing with deeper issues or challenges that they need more support on, more coaching. And it's really parent-directed. So the parents identify what is the issue they want to work on. It's not a canned strategy per se, but it's really based on what the parents want to do. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob so he can talk a little bit more about the actual counseling services that are delivered district-wide, and then we'll take your questions.
Good evening, happy to be here. First off, I want to echo Jenny and just say thanks to all of you for supporting behavioral health services at your school campuses here in Calistoga, and particularly acknowledge your superintendent, who I think has provided excellent leadership in this regard. Let me give you a little bbit of history, just so you understand. There's a handout that you've got so you can follow along or take it with you after we're done with the presentation. We've been, Mentis, formerly Family Service in Napa Valley, we changed our name about 6 months ago. We've been providing mental health treatment services in the schools here in Calistoga for about 7 years. We added the elementary school this current year. Previous to that, we were in the middle school and the high school, including Palisades. Jenny, I think, did a good job of talking about how the referral process works. But I think the thing that's important to understand is the degree of intervention that we provide here on a weekly basis. So currently we have 6 days per week worth of a therapist's time, and we're hoping to, the plan is to increase that to 7 next year. And what does that mean? It means that we have a total of therapists on site. There are 3 different therapists, 6 days per week. The equivalent of, obviously there's only 5 school days. That means we have more than one-on-one capacity, which is important to understand because the level of academic problems, behavioral problems, social difficulty, family problems that end up translating into difficulty at school has been pretty significant. And I'm pleased that we've been able to provide therapeutic support to dramatically decrease the impact that these issues have on the functioning of kids here at school. Because what are the things we're talking about? Right? We're talking about depression, anxiety, we're talking about traumatic experiences at home, could be due to domestic violence, drug and alcohol usage, it could be family members that have been gang affiliated. We're talking about a whole range of problems that really can have a dramatic impact on a child's ability to come to school ready to learn and really be at their best. So the goal all along has really been to address all these issues, to improve school functioning, academic performance, social functioning, and really prepare these kids to be healthy, contributing members of the community once they graduate. So in regard to the number of students that we've served this year, just to give you a sense, at the elementary level, we served 29 kids. There were 21 on the wait list. At the junior and high school level, we served 32 with 10 on the wait list. So if you add that together, so total students that we served in district were 61 with 31 on the wait list. So I think one of the important things to remember is our approach to working with the kids is to make sure that they get the type of treatment they need so that ideally they have the tools and the ability, once they've been through the treatment process, to really carry on in a healthy and stable manner without kind of cycling in and out of crises or needing ongoing support, which is why we really sometimes it takes a little bit longer to work with a kid to make sure they really have achieved that level of stability and really have the coping skills that they need to move forward. Real quick, I just think it's important to talk about results because I think I want to highlight that the investment that you're making in bringing Mentis in really does pay off. So we have 4 valid and reliable outcome measures that we use to evaluate, are we hitting the mark and doing our job? And briefly what those are, we have an emotional rating scale that really measures the student's level of emotional distress. We do all this, we take a measurement at the beginning of treatment and then again at the end of treatment. So on that measurement, we're seeing an 85% improvement differential on our scale. We also have something, a measurement tool called PHQ-9, which is used around depression. 90% of the students that initially presented with depression show a reduction in those symptoms at the end of treatment once they've completed treatment. We also have a measurement for anxiety. Again, I've got this on the handout. About 70% are showing improvement pre and post-test, beginning to end of treatment. And the PCLC, which is a measure that related to trauma and the symptoms of trauma. And 72% of our students that presented with a trauma or symptoms related to trauma at the beginning of treatment are showing improvement at the end. So I think we're making inroads and really having an impact with the students, and want to just end my portion by saying the partnership that we have with the Up Valley Family Center is excellent. The partnership we have with the school district and your staff is excellent, and I think we couldn't do it without all of our entities coming together for the same end goal and purpose. So thank you.
I just have one question.
Sure.
So you're getting referrals from the Up Valley Center, you're also getting referrals from the school administration, correct? Yeah. And teachers.
Yes.
And teachers.
Yes,
Okay.
school
And then
personnel.
at that point, you're reaching out to the parents saying, we have this available service, are you interested? At which point they can say, no, yes.
Yes. Part of what we do also is, yes, we always try and include the parents the best that we can. Certainly, that's a requirement at the elementary school level. Once you get into junior high school and high school, we do have the ability to provide treatment without parental consent. We really try not to do that. If there's been a difficulty, I would say sometimes it's been parents are just busy, they're overwhelmed, and it's difficult for them to respond to therapists. And so that sometimes has been a challenge, is getting parents to respond to the needs of their children.
I just want to add that we also send a letter home at the beginning of the year to let parents know of the services available and to call us if they have any questions. So we try to make it known right at the beginning of the school year.
I just would like to add that for the coming year, our goal is to provide actually a total of 8 days of services with licensed therapists for our students, 5 days at the elementary school, and then 3 days over here at the junior senior high school. And I'd like to say thank you to Mentis too for providing one of those days, for basically covering the cost of one of those days, and the district is covering the cost of the additional 7 days. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the Up Valley Family Center has received a grant from Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement to support our Triple P work and services with parents. So that's another cost that's leveraged into the mix.
And the Triple P is going to be a totally different program above and beyond, by the way, this licensed therapist, correct?
Yes, it's to be an enhancement. So it's really directed at the parents and supporting the parents with their children at home.
They'll work in tandem though. Many of our clinicians will be trained, and they already have familiarity with the tenets or the basic premises of the Triple P. So they're mutually supportive of each other.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, so item 12.2 is now Ms. Carla Serber, who's going to come to us about the College and Career Center.
Hello. I've been the College and Career Center coordinator since February 23rd now, and I wanted to begin by just thanking the board and Dr. Wunderlin and my leadership at the school for supporting me in this transition. You know, a couple of years ago, we didn't have a College and Career Center, but when it was apparent that we were going to lose our staff, everyone sort of rallied around and made sure that we didn't lose this valuable service for our students. And that speaks to the commitment of this district to the children in this community, and I think that's really wonderful. My priorities, as identified by me and Esmeralda and Craig Wyckoff, were to get them through the scholarship process, to help them make their choices for colleges. Many of our seniors receive multiple college acceptances, to help them review their financial aid packages and make sense of those. And we also hosted 2 events this year. For scholarships, we're talking about the local scholarships, but also the free application for student aid, the federal free application for student aid. Also the California DREAM Act application, which is very similar to the FAFSA. And then any school-based scholarships being offered to them from the institutions that had accepted them. In looking at just the local scholarship pool, I'm thoroughly impressed. In 2011, there were 47 individual scholarships offered that year, or awarded that year. For the past 2 years, we've awarded 75 individual scholarships, and that's our local donor base. So a nice steady increase there. total awards in thousands. High Point in 2013, 100,000. There was a local winery who I hope will participate again, but has not participated in the past couple of years, who offered two $10,000 scholarships, which would be distributed $2,500 a year for 4 years. So that gave us the bump there. And then the difference between the 90 and the 83 in the last 2 years was an additional $10,000 scholarship that was made available. The donor participated again this year. It was just one scholarship at that amount. So pretty much we have maintained what happened last year. The local scholarship committee on campus, which is several teachers, the academic counselor, myself, and Tony Williams participates as well. We wanted to see if we could do a better job of meeting students up with the criteria and see if we couldn't spread the money a little bit further, but we also wanted to get more students to apply. And Joanna, my predecessor, in working with Gary Gutman, actually was able to get 49% of our seniors receiving scholarships compared to only 37% last year. So Gary's contribution to that was he made it a requirement that seniors in his 12th grade English class complete a local scholarship application. So Gary and I are in conversations about doing that again. And here's that, what I was talking about, trying to distribute the money a little bit further. So 70% of the money last year went to the top 5 students. 62% of the money this year went to the top 5 students. Wanted to show you something about their choices, and some of these numbers are a little bit different now because I wish Jeff Maxfield was here because I learned a new expression from him. He talks about things being difficult or challenging. It's like herding kittens. Getting the students to give you their final decision is a little like that. So when this PowerPoint was made, 47% of our students had chosen to go to a 4-year and 44% to a 2-year. That's now 40% to a 4-year and 53% to a 2-year. And just as the reason it's financial. Students who had 4-year acceptances who scrutinized those financial aid packages and decided what they really needed to do was go to a 2-year. Of our students going to 4 years, we now have 9 going to UCs, 12 going to CSUs. So some of our CSUs are the ones that migrated over to 2-year colleges, and 2 going to private universities. Of those 9 who are going to a UC, 5 are going to Davis. We actually had 6 of our seniors accepted to Davis, which is pretty impressive. That doesn't happen very often. Michelle Craig Morales and I worked together to bring in lots of services from the Napa Valley Community College as well as Santa Rosa Junior College. So many of our students are interested in going there, and we have identified a need to better prepare students for making those junior college choices. Many of them think of it only as a place to go if you feel not ready to go to a 4-year. They're unaware of the many certificate programs that they could be taking there. So that's going to be a big push next year to make sure that our seniors know exactly what's available to them. But this year, we were able to have counselors come from both of those campuses to meet with our seniors. And students were also able to take the Napa Valley placement exam for their math and English classes on our campus. And those test results are then, they can use those at Santa Rosa Junior College as well. So helping those students to get sort of that front work done on our campus, I think, was a huge benefit. Financial aid, choosing those financial aid packages was something that was challenging, and students needed a lot of support with that. And there's some new things going on. There is a handout in your board packet put out by the Institute for College Access and Success, and they have provided a map of the state of California where they compare UCs to a nearby CSU to a nearby community college. So when I'm looking at financial aid packages with students, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing if a student's going to UC Davis and their family qualifies as low income, meaning less than $80,000 a year, their gap, what their family will have to contribute, is $8,500. But Sac State, it goes up to $9,900. And a community college is $15,400. Now this is based on the net price calculators provided on these schools' websites. What's it going to cost you to get through that year? One of the reasons the UC Davis, or many of the other UCs, are looking so much more affordable is the Blue and Gold Opportunity Program, which basically says if your family makes less than $80,000 per year, the Blue and Gold Opportunity Program pays your tuition and fees. And that's about half of the bill. About $15,000 for tuition and fees, $15,000 for room and board. So when they get their Cal grants, and if they're documented, then they can also get their Pell grants. That's how you get that $8,500 gap. Which, by the way, for many of our students who were headed to a UC who had that $8,500 to $9,500 gap, the local scholarships pretty much wiped out those gaps. The Blue and Gold are also available to not just FAFSA, but DREAM Act eligible scholars as well. We had our first ever college signing day. That's an initiative of Michelle Obama and her Reach Higher campaign. And it's pushing students to make some kind of a formal commitment to some kind of schooling after graduation from high school. It was a lot of fun. Trustee Maxfield was there. I mocked up contracts for the students to sign that basically said they promised to work hard and be nice. And we, the district, promised to continue to support them and be proud of them. And the school in the contract was promising to provide them with a quality education. And Dr. Mondragon provided pizza through La Prima, and Wildcat Cafe provided salads. Trustee Maxfield was there. We did it during lunch break. I had purchased banners for each of the schools the students were attending. I think the suggestion was made that we get t-shirts. Couldn't figure out how to do that in a week and a half, so I got banners instead. But next year we'll try to get the t-shirt thing done. But a lot of them had their own t-shirts with ball caps as well, so it was a lot of fun. And then just on the 25th, we had the Wildcat Scholars Night where we distributed the local scholarships. That was over $80,000 in local scholarships. There were actually 19 added scholars, one slipped in, made his A through G, yay, and 12 California Scholarship Federation scholars.
Excuse me,
Yes.
how many seniors graduated this last school year? I want to put it into perspective when it comes to the total amount of scholarships.
56. Moving forward, Craig and I met today with the city manager, who's interested in helping us set up some sort of work release, internship opportunities for our students. He's talking about everything from corporation yard kinds of positions to finance and human resources. So there's a wide range of opportunities there. He's also going to reach out to Santa Rosa Junior College and Napa Valley Community College. Both of them have programs that allow students, high school students, to do work experience and earn college credits while they're doing that. The city's also interested in doing paid internships for our students. I think it's going to be an extraordinary opportunity. There's a lot of legwork to be done. What do we need in terms of how we set up their schedules? When are they allowed to be off campus? And what does that look like? But we're working on that. It was great to begin that process with him today. FAFSA is October 1st this coming year. That's a Saturday. I will be here with the College and Career Center open. I want those students applying for their financial aid often and early. I'll be talking to donors as well about trying to move up the local scholarship selection process. May 1st is the deadline for students to choose the college they're going to attend. And $1,000, $2,500, $5,000 in local scholarships can make a huge difference. And what I hear from students who get a $1,000 scholarship is, wow, somebody believes I'm worth it. So even if it doesn't cover the entire financial gap, it really helps them to think in terms of, now I can apply for this scholarship or get this. It just gives them that extra boost of confidence. Career exploration, I do not yet know how to use Naviance. I got frustrated trying to teach myself how to use it yesterday. I'm going to meet with Michelle on Wednesday and see if she can set me on the right path. I'd like to do a lot of workshops in the College and Career Center, writing resumes, cover letters, thank you letters. And then Naviance is on there. And I've created what I hope will end up being a one-stop website. I've got it pretty much fleshed out except for the internship page. We have an employment page. You can now go, thanks to Julie for suggesting, you can now go to the College and Career Center's website and get the paperwork you need for a work permit, for example. You can do college exploration. The very first page has a link to give feedback on the site. So if you would, if you have time, have a glance at it, fill out the survey, let me know what you'd like to see on the website. I've been looking at other schools, College and Career Center websites, and stealing ideas, of course, but you know our situation here best, so I appreciate your help.
I just want to say thank you, because imagine how excited I was to find out that my 14-year-old could work a 40-hour work week.
Could, oh wow.
Very excited.
Times have changed.
Yeah, but I also want to tell you that I'm completely obsessed with Naviance. So once you get on, I do career exploration still every day on Naviance. For my new, no, it's great. They have videos, people describing their jobs. It's very cool. Very, very cool.
And I'm interested in the data that can be extracted from it.
Exactly.
And I'd like to open it to questions if you have any.
Well, more than a question, I have a comment. As you know, I work for the Valley Family Centers. We do put together the Summer Bridges program, which is, intended to give some pre-kindergarten experience to children who never went to preschool.
Right.
So the program is going to be 4 weeks long. And one of the very nice things that happened was that we have a couple of the girls who participated on the La Promesa program. They went through an interview process and they were so prepared. They came prepared with their resume, with a cover letter, and they applied an application for employment. They went through the whole process of interview and they were able to get the job for the summer.
That's
It's very
wonderful.
impressive, the help that they got from the
Good.
career
And that was Maggie Swarner. She took that on herself. She and I talked, and I didn't have time. And she took that on herself and helped prepare the girls for that. And that's something that she and I have talked about working on together next year. And that would be those workshops that we have. We send our children out into the world, and we haven't always prepared them for some of these things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the girls did a really good job.
That's great.
We are looking forward to have them in the world.
Wonderful.
Just wanted to say thank you again, because I'm definitely very pleased, and I would say that we will continue to just improve, retool what we're doing, and it will just keep getting better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions on that. And we'll go to 12.3, which is Chris's facilities update report.
Hello. Tonight we'll be talking, reviewing the noteworthy items in our facilities and maintenance summer plan for 2016. We got a lot to do, but I'm confident we can get it done. If you have any questions at all during the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask. This summer, our main focus areas will be in work order completion, site cleaning, fit report completion, site improvement projects, and pending infrastructure improvements. At the time I put the presentation together, we had 25 work orders that we had deferred to the summer break, but at the end of the year, the staff comes up with all kinds of stuff for the summer work. So we're currently at 49 work orders for the summer. A lot of the work orders we hold off on are work orders that are not urgent, not safety related, and just generally easier to do in the summertime when the staff and students are on break. Those items include wall repairs, touch-up painting, downspout repairs, tree care. We're going to be adding some additional bike racks as well as a skateboard rack here at the high school. There's some signage that needs to be replaced, updated, or added. Here at the high school, we want to add some no unauthorized parking signs in this general area here, because a lot of people just feel like they can drive onto the campus, and we want to minimize that. We'd also like to put some signs up at the elementary school to limit the usage after hours. I'm working on the wording on that right now, but we're really just looking for something that lets people know we don't want you on the site after the sun goes down, basically. We anticipate all work orders will be completed by the first week in August. I'd also like to add, just to note, since August 1st to today, we've received 560 work orders, and we've completed 511. So these are 49 we have over the summer. Site cleaning this week. Sac Bell, our janitorial supplier, will be coming in to do some training. We have a lot of veteran custodians, but we also have some new custodians as well as some new maintenance guys. So we'll all do an updated training related to deep cleaning bathrooms, carpet cleaning, stuff like that. Like last year, we've got some juggling to do to accomplish the summer cleaning between carpet work, paving, and summer school. There's some logistics to be considered, but we've got a pretty good plan, and I think we'll be successful. The grounds at each site will be completely cleaned, and all landscaping will be trimmed and pruned. This year I'd like to, since we have more resources, I'd like to improve on the exterior cleanliness over last year. To accomplish this, the maintenance staff and the grounds crew will contribute more to that portion to also give the custodial staff more time to spend on the interior of the cleaning process. Our pit reports, we were shorthanded for the first half of the year, but we didn't complete a lot of the key items from that report. The remaining items we held off until the summertime when it's less impact on the classrooms. A lot of it requires some downtime in the classroom to get done. But some of those items include ceiling tile replacement, light fixture lens replacements. We're doing some carpet repair. We're also doing some carpet replacement as well. Site improvement projects this summer. Here at the high school, we're going to be adding cameras and access control to the gym, or the new gym, the multipurpose room, the wood shop. I did run into one hiccup related to the wood shop. I initially thought that we could run data lines through the existing conduit that runs from Office C over to the wood shop, but one of those conduits supplies a fire alarm. The other conduit is the main power in the building, and we can't put the data lines in the same conduit. So I'll be meeting this week with construction company to discuss the trenching portion of that project. Napa Electric has already checked it out for running the data line, so they've got that all squared away. The only thing that we have, they had told me that it would be cheaper for me to get somebody other than them to do the trenching. So I'm going to take their word for it just based on how much they charge. So. Next is Prop 39 lighting upgrades. We just had our pre-construction meeting today to discuss the logistics and schedule. A majority of the work is going to take place immediately following summer school, but there will be some investigating and some minor work taking place during summer school, but nothing that's going to impact the students or the classrooms. The last part of the summer projects kind of go together. The CES playground paving, which is to remove the existing base rock and asphalt and replace it with 6 inches of base rock and 3 inches of asphalt. In addition to that, we'll be basically relocating the ball walls, but we'll be removing the existing ones and building new ones on the northwest corner of the basketball court. As of right now, we're still waiting on DSA approval, but we should be getting that very shortly. Lastly is our pending infrastructure improvements. We're currently investigating and in the investigation and planning stages some concerns that we'd like to correct on 2 storm drains at the elementary school. Key components of that are an architectural report and a plan for correction. Based on our architect's recommendation, the highest priority is to get the first portion done, which includes rerouting a storm drain and stabilizing another. We're anticipating that completion to be around fall 2016. The second part of that is a little bit more detailed and requires some more investigation. We're going to be looking into doing some riverbank repair and stabilization. Since the river is considered a fish and wildlife habitat, there'll be numerous state and federal agencies that will have to review the plan, and we'll go from there, but we're still working on figuring out what exactly we need to do for that. Any questions?
Well, I just want to say that I've noticed a huge difference since you've taken command of the schools. I have.
Thanks a lot, I appreciate
Really,
that.
everything looks so nice and neat and lovely.
A lot of that has to do with my guys. They really make it happen for me. So it allows me to spend more time on my job description. Is there anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so 12.4, 2016 Napa County Grand Jury Report from Brendan.
I am pleased to provide you a copy of this report because you will see that throughout Napa County, the grand jury basically was looking at gang activity at the different high schools in Napa. And on page 8, right there, you will see what they had to say about Calistoga. So we received a very positive report about our students and the climate in our schools.
No questions about that? 12.5 LCAP Written Chronicle Report, also Superintendent.
That is also just documented in a sense the different activities related to the LCAP, and we bring that to you on a monthly basis.
Great, so 13.0 consent calendar. Actions proposed for the consent calendar are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So at this point, I would ask if anybody's interested in removing any items for discussion. Okay.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Great. And that's a roll call vote. President Maxfield's not here. Clerk Alpshin, aye. Trustee Lopez? Aye. Trustee DeGiulio?
Aye.
And Trustee Hunt?
Aye.
Perfect. 14.0 action items. Protocol for action items includes staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board during public input. There will be a 3-minute time limit per person. So the first action item is 14.1, which is the 2016-17 designation of California Interscholastic Federation, CIF, representatives to the league.
This is a routine item that comes to you on a yearly basis, and we request that you approve our recommendation.
And that would be that Calistoga Junior High School's principal.
David Kumamoto, correct, and
Would be our
Athletic Director
representative.
Ken and Lee Yoder be the representatives to CIF.
All right.
Move that we approve the recommendation, the designation of the CIF.
I'll second that.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And 14.2 is declaration of need for fully qualified educators. The district must submit an annual declaration certifying that there are insufficient numbers of certified persons who meet the district's specified employment criteria for fully qualified teachers and limited assignment credentials.
So far, we have not really had the need to exercise this declaration of need for fully qualified educators. All of the teachers that we have are credentialed, fully credentialed, as well as the ones that we have hired recently. However, again, it is just for emergency situations. This also is a routine item that comes to you.
Perfect. Any questions about that one? No? Okay.
So I move that we accept the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Second that motion?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Great, and then the last one is 14.3, GCCI Incorporated Contract for Services. GCCI Inc. is a general contracting firm located in Santa Rosa, specializing in commercial and industrial construction. The district desires to enter into a contract with GCCI Inc. to complete our construction projects.
So, as we've been talking about our summer 2016 projects, we've been working closely with our architects at DCA, which Christina Frankel is here, as well as Juan Barroso. And they assisted us in interviewing to find a contractor, and we were extremely impressed with GCCI. And the feedback we received from other school districts they have worked with was very positive. And so also here, Michael, and Brandon, and both from GCCI.
Thank you for coming.
In the board packet, you have basically an action item overview, giving you some background and information about the construction company. And then you have the contract. So Juan, is there anything you would like to add?
Know that we're very pleased with the process of working with GCCI, bringing them forward, and I think they're going to be a great resource for the district going forward.
Great. No other questions from anybody?
I'd like to comment, I'm very impressed by the thoroughness of the contract. It's very well written, and made it very clear how it all works. Thanks for providing that.
We knew you were going to be looking at
The fine-tooth comb. I could only find one thing, and it's such a minor thing, I'm not even going to mention it.
We would have been disappointed if you hadn't found something.
Our attorneys, Lozano Smith, provided the district with some.
Yeah, it's fantastic, very good.
Okay. I'm looking to you guys for a motion.
I move we enter into a lease-back agreement with GCCI Inc.
Second, I'm sorry, I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then moving to 15.0, future agenda items. Tentative for our next June meeting, because we have 2 this month, is our LCAP adoption, which needs to take place June 20th, and our budget adoption. Anything else that anybody wants to see on the agenda?
I wouldn't mind getting an update on the June report, so we get it fixed.
That's good.
So just a quick item, just a little bit like our chronology.
Information item.
Yeah,
Sure.
information item, it doesn't have to be anything super huge, but I want to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
Oh, we're making progress.
I do
On
we
top of
were,
it.
but
Sure, we can do that. Great. And then 16.0 board calendar, so we have another meeting in June, which is going to be Monday, June 20th at 6 p.m. And we do not have any reason to reconvene a closed session. And
Move that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
okay.
Too late.
All in favor?
Yes?
Yes.